How to calculate rate per mile trucking as a dispatcher. You booked the load. The truck moved. The miles got run. Then the owner-operator called you at month end, and they were not happy. The rate looked fine. The miles looked fine. But after fuel, driver pay, insurance, and deadhead, the load lost money. And you had no idea because nobody told you what that truck actually cost to run. That is the dispatcher's blind spot. And it is costing dispatchers their clients every single day. If you're booking loads without knowing how to calculate rate per mile against real truck costs, you're not dispatching. You're just moving freight and hoping the math works out. It often does not. Rate per mile is the gross revenue a load generates divided by the total miles required to complete it. Loaded miles plus any deadhead to reach the pickup. A load paying $1,800 for 900 loaded miles looks like $2 per mile. But if the truck has to deadhead 150 miles to the pickup, the real rate per mile drops to $1.71. That is a significant difference. And it is exactly the difference that dispatchers miss when they focus on the rate and ignore the full picture. Rate per mile tells you what the load pays. What it does not tell you is whether that rate covers what the truck costs to run. That number, the cost per mile, is what determines whether a load is profitable. And if you do not know it, you are booking blind. High rate, low profit. It happens more than most dispatchers realize. A load at $2.20 per mile sounds strong. But if the truck costs $1.95 per mile to operate and the load requires 200 miles of deadhead, the margin evaporates fast. Add a fuel surcharge that did not get negotiated correctly, a toll quarter of the rate did not account for, or a driver on a higher pay scale, and a good rate becomes a losing load. Dispatchers who book on rate alone are measuring the wrong thing. The question is never, is this a good rate? The question is, does this rate cover this truck's costs and leave a margin worth running for? Those are completely different questions. And you cannot answer the second one without knowing the truck's cost per mile. The owner-operator knows this. They are living it at month end. When numbers do not add up, the first call they make is to their dispatcher. If you cannot explain why a load that looked good on paper cost them money, you're not long for that client relationship. To understand whether a rate works, you need to understand the truck's cost structure. Every truck carries two types of costs. Fixed costs hit every month regardless of miles. Truck and trailer payments. Insurance. Permits and licensing. ELD and software. And yes, your dispatch fee is in their cost structure too. Variable cost scale with miles. Fuel, the biggest one. Driver pay. Maintenance, tires, repairs, and the maintenance escrow serious operators set aside per mile. Tolls, especially in high toll corridors. The minimum acceptable rate per mile is the point where total revenue equals total cost. Below that line, every mile is a loss. Your job is to book loads that land above that line, consistently, not occasionally. We built a free cost per mile calculator on our website to help you get started. We placed the link below this video. It lets you establish a break-even number fast, without guessing. Here's how to calculate rate per mile the right way. Step 1. Get the load details. Total revenue, loaded miles, and how far the truck has to deadhead to the pickup. Step 2. Calculate the real rate per mile. Total revenue divided by loaded miles plus deadhead miles. Not the broker's quoted rate, the real rate. Step 3. Compare against the truck's cost per mile. You can immediately see the margin or the loss. Step 4. Factor in the load's net. Revenue minus fuel, driver pay, tolls, and load-specific costs. What is left is the actual contribution to the operator's fixed costs and profit. Step 5. Make the call. Does this load cover costs and deliver margin worth running? Book it with confidence. If not, negotiate or find a better load. This is the workflow that separates dispatchers who build long-term client relationships from those who churn through clients every 6 months. Now here is the deadhead problem in real numbers. A load paying $1,900 for 800 miles is $2.38 per mile on paper. If the truck is 250 miles from the pickup, the real rate drops to $1.81 per mile. If the operator's cost per mile is $1.75, that load has a margin of 6 cents per mile. One unexpected repair or a fuel price spike, and they are in the red. Always calculate rate per mile using total miles, loaded and deadhead. The math has to use the same denominator. No exceptions. Here is the problem most dispatchers face. To book profitable loads, you need to know the truck's cost per mile. But that number lives inside the operator's financials, and most operators are not going to hand you their full P&L. CarrierWin solves that problem. The operator sets up their full cost structure in CarrierWin once. From that point on, every load calculation is automatic. Enter the miles and the rate, and you immediately see the fuel cost, driver pay, dispatch fee, daily break-even, and total load cost, all calculated against that truck's real numbers. No back and forth with the owner. No guessing. Just a clear answer on whether the load works before it gets confirmed. This is how CarrierWin turns a dispatcher from a load finder into a profitability partner. You're not just moving freight. You're protecting your client's margins on every single load. That is a different value proposition, and it is one that makes you indispensable. The best dispatchers in trucking are not the ones who find the most loads. They're the ones whose clients make money consistently, because every load gets evaluated against real cost before the truck moves. That is the standard CarrierWin is built around. Know the number. Run the load. Book with confidence. Go to CarrierWin.com and start your free 14-day trial. No credit card. No commitment. Just clarity. Built by people who got their hands dirty in trucking. We know what it takes to keep your trucks above water because we have been there. And if you need help getting set up, including walking through the numbers for the trucks you dispatch, just reach out. We will walk you through it.